Hello everyone, I am Bruffy1322 and welcome to the Stewards room, where we'll be taking a look at racing incidents submitted by you guys and trying to make a determination on who, if anyone, was at fault. There's a link in the description to submit your own clips, and feel free to check out the playlist link for more of these videos, specifically the first, which acts as a scene setter. Also, keep an eye out for cards popping up on screen towards the end of each segment, where you can vote on who you thought was at fault for each incident. So I thought I would try and mix it up a little bit by putting the face cam here on the screen. As you can see, I will put a poll towards the end of the video. It'll be at the bottom of all the normal polls for you to let me know whether you like this format or whether you would just prefer it to be, only the gameplay footage. But yeah, I did want to do a little bit of an experiment because I did do a video, sort of a GTA discussion video like this in this format, and some people seem to like it. So let me know what you think. Now, here's our first clip. We can see the whole idea with this episode is what you do when drivers are out of control. So we see that someone's come out of the pit lane here. He's gone for the corner, obviously must be on cold tyres or something like that, and basically messed up the corner. Obviously coming out of the pits, you do have to be a little bit more careful. If you are on cold tyres, let's slow it down. So we can see that he comes around here, brakes for the corner, then he'll lose grip, oversteer, goes deep into the corner as well, and basically makes a mistake. Now, the collision that results from this, whose fault is this on? And that's what we're going to be trying to discuss and unpack, because in reality, when it comes to things like this, most of the time, at least for me, I'm always going to say that these are racing incidents, because it's just one of those things, especially, let's look at it at full speed first of all, because it can be easy to look at this at slow speed and think, oh, well, he could have avoided that quite easily. So let's look at it at full speed. It's difficult when you're in a racing situation like this, especially when you're driving a car, you're following the racing line, you're on your line. It's difficult to take avoiding action. The speed that happens, for me personally, I would say that was just a racing incident. That's not really, it's very difficult to apportion blame to the person who's made the mistake, because, mistakes happen, in racing. You can't, it's only really when something is intentional or affects somebody else's race that you could really say, okay, you should get a penalty for that. If his mistake, second place's mistake, had caused the person who were looking, the perspective of to be out of the race or lose a position or something like that, then fair enough, I would say penalty is applied to the person who made the mistake in the first place. Now, you could argue that with a little bit of better, let me just speed it up again, with a little bit of better awareness or foresight, you could imagine that the pink car, the car that we're racing with, could have avoided this by braking a little bit earlier. I mean, it's pretty clear to see that from this point, as we're looking at it here, there is still a reasonable gap between the two cars, and this car is only going to go one way, and that's shooting back out here. So you could argue that he could quite easily have put the brakes on at this point to try and avoid it. Obviously, you can see but then again, you look at the speed that happened, and it becomes a lot more difficult to make that distinction. So when you're looking at it slow like this, it makes it a lot easier. But if someone makes a mistake like that, for me, there's not necessarily hard and fast rules. We normally look at the rules of racing document, and that's kind of why I wanted to make this video and look at these things, so that you guys can make a determination for yourself as well, and we can see what everybody thinks, obviously on the polls that pop up on the screen. But for me, it was this guy that made the mistake. It was all on him. He made the mistake. If anything bad had happened to the pink car as a result of that, that would have been entirely on his fault. It was his mistake to go wide like that, miss his braking point, spin out, get an oversteer moment, and then shoot back onto the track in such a fashion. But because nothing really did happen, obviously there was a little bit of a collision, but beyond that, nothing really happened that was to the detriment of the pink car. He does get a penalty in, GT Sport's terrible penalty system, but for me, that's just a racing incident. Things like that can happen. I would totally be putting that down to a racing incident. There was not, it's not as if there was any malice involved from the pink car, at least from my perspective. And it's not on the pink car to constantly be thinking about the consequences of every mistake that anyone else might make. He could have, I suppose at this point you could argue that he could have completely, he could have stamped on the brakes and stopped and allowed the pink car to get through. He could have completely spun it around and wouldn't have even been over on this side of the track. So anything, when a car's out of control, really anything can happen. And for me, it's not the person who is following or coming up behind a car that's out of control that has the responsibility to avoid it. It's the person who was out of control to take responsibility for the mistake that he made and try to stay out of people's way if he makes a mistake when racing. But obviously you guys let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and also on the poll, which will pop up on the top right just next to my head right there. And yeah, let me know what you think. Was this the green car's fault? Was it the white car's fault? Yeah, the white car's fault. Or was it just a racing incident? Was it just one of those things? Let me know your thoughts in the poll and in the comments. But for me, this one I would just put down to a racing incident, to be honest. It's just one of those things. No one really to blame for what happened. So our next clip is at the very start of a race, and it's basically someone not getting away off the grid, off the line, and the person who submitted this asked, was this my fault for having this, for causing this crash? And for me, no, just on first look at it, because again, who is responsible for someone either being out of control or not doing something that is expected? And obviously at the start of a race, we're looking at the car in front of us. We're expecting everybody to move forward. That's just what you imagine. That's the normal behavior. And doing abnormal behavior is not what you should be doing in a racing situation. So we'll slow it down just to sort of see it. But again, something like this happens so quickly that really, if anything, the yellow car does pretty well to take avoiding action at the start of the race and not hit the blue car in the back. So obviously everybody starts, the blue car doesn't move, so avoiding action just to say gets away with it and doesn't hit the blue car. And then really it's okay apart from this hit here. This is what sort of exacerbates the issue, because then they continue going, and he ends up getting spun around and a crash ensues from that. Now, if anything, honestly, I would say that grey car was, if not wholly, but at least partly to blame for what happened. Because when you look at it sort of early on in the phase, there's a little bit of a hit on the rear left of the yellow car, but it doesn't cause any issue at that point. So you'll see the first hit here there, and the yellow car at this point can still save it. It's okay, it was just a little bit of a hit. If the grey car stamps on the brakes at that point, which is really the thing that he should do for his own benefit as well, because he loses out on this as well. All he has to do is, stamp on the brakes. He sees that there's an issue in front, but people don't seem to want to do that, and he just keeps ploughing into the yellow car and turns him around, and it's not the fault of the yellow car that he had to take avoiding action on the blue car that didn't move. So for me, it's either the fault of the blue car for not moving, or the fault of the grey car for, pushing it when he shouldn't have done. It's certainly not the fault of the yellow car that this incident happened. But obviously when you look at it in, full speed, it all happens so quickly as well that it's difficult to really apportion blame with something like this. And again, for me, I would probably be saying this is a racing incident, especially if this was, obviously in a game like this, you expect everybody to just be going at the start. But in real life racing, things can happen, and they have happened when it comes to cars not getting off the grid. for whatever reason, mechanical faults or something like that. And things like that can happen, and whatever happens because of that in terms of crashes, for me, it's just a racing incident. It's just one of those things that can happen. You can't really, apportion too much blame. In this case, I would probably apportion most of the blame to the blue car for not getting off the grid, because there's no reason why he shouldn't have been able to get off the grid. It is a game after all. He should have just been able to go. And him causing the yellow car to take avoiding action is what really caused this whole issue. But for the most part, it's either the blue car's fault or a racing incident. You could apportion some blame to the grey car for sort of pushing it when he should have backed out, but again, he wouldn't. That situation wouldn't have been even created if it wasn't for the blue car. So it's just, again, out of control drivers or drivers not doing what is expected. For me, the default of the blame always goes to the person who's not doing what is expected of them in terms of, taking the right racing line, and it even says that in the rules of racing document. As you can see here, it says maneuvers liable to hinder other drivers, such as deliberate crowding of a car beyond the edge of the track or any other abnormal change of direction, are not permitted. Now that is really talking about defending your position on a straight, but it can be applied to any abnormal change of direction. Really can be applied to anything. If you're around the track and you're doing something that is unexpected, then that is not right. That's not what you should be doing, and that causes other drivers to not really have confidence in what they're doing and racing against you. And then for me, the fault would almost certainly always go to the person who's doing that abnormal change of direction or abnormal action on the racetrack. But as always, you guys let me know your thoughts on the poll in the top right hand corner of the screen or in the comments. Was it the blue car's fault, yellow car, grey car, or was it just a racing incident, one of those things? Again, I would probably lean more towards racing incident, but I could certainly see why people would choose to vote for either the blue car or the grey car in this situation. But I certainly don't put any blame on the yellow car for having to take avoiding action and then just getting caught up in a bit of a mess, But what could he do otherwise? So yeah, let me know your thoughts, obviously, on the poll and everything. And let's move on to the next clip. So next clip, we're racing some Clios around Snetterton, and yeah, a little bit of contact going on there in that corner. Nothing too major. Oh, we get a different view of it. Perfect. So you see this relatively often in racing, whether we're racing on GTA or whatever racing game it might be, where someone basically makes a mistake and someone else is coming along and taking the normal line or the right line, a better line, and runs into the person who makes a mistake. So let's just go back a little bit. So we're focusing on the blue and red car over there, and we're going to see that he ends up basically, this is, I don't know where he is at this point of the corner. He's where, this is the racing line that these two cars are on. He's all the way over here, so he's already gotten this completely wrong. And now, trying to still make the corner, he obviously messes up his braking quite a lot, locks his brakes, goes wide, and he's really, really, really slow off the. And to be fair, he's off the racing line. This is the racing line. He's off it, and at that point, I think it would default to, he's off the track, he's off the racing line. It's his duty to then get back on the racing line in a fashion that's going to, be responsible to other drivers. But obviously you don't see that. He just turns right in like that. And obviously the momentum of the white car that we're racing with, it takes him into the blue and red car. But to be honest, for me, even at the point of contact, there's still space over here that the blue and red car could have used to get back onto the track in a responsible way after his mistake. And it was all his mistake that caused this. So for me, I can't put any blame on the white car for that. Yes, there was contact, but the white car was just doing what he what he should have been doing for the corner. You know, he was just taking his normal corner, and it was the blue and red car that was basically completely out of control. He was all over the place. You know, he got it completely wrong going into the corner. Then it just looked like he had no idea what he was doing for that corner. And I don't think you can put any blame on the white car for that bit of contact. And in reality, I would say that the blue and red car should be giving the position to the white car because it was his fault that contact occurred. I don't think that you know, you could say that anyone else was to blame apart from the blue and red car. He was the one that had that messed up, and he was the one that caused the contact because he was, you know, all over the place. Another abnormal change of direction. That's not where he should be on the track. He shouldn't be going that slowly on that part of the track and then coming back onto the track in the way that he did. So, or at least back onto the racing line. So I would totally put that one, not even a racing incident at that point. That one for me is entirely on the fault of the red and the blue and red car. You guys can let me know obviously in the poll in the comments down below, but for me, white car did nothing there, and that was entirely on the blue and red car. He made a mistake, and then he came back onto the racing line after making his mistake in an irresponsible manner. So you guys let me know what you think obviously in the poll and down below in the comments. So, final clip on good old GTA, and there's always plenty of clusters at the start of these stream races, and here's another one, and this is a perfect example of how these things are caused, I suppose. We can see firsthand how crashes like this occur at the start of these stream races. So, we'll slow it down and try to unpack it and see who was out of control and what the deal was. So, we're coming along, muscle car race, so it's already, you know, a little bit difficult to control these cars. They don't have an awful lot of grip. Coming along here, we see, so it looks like it's these two cars in front. We got this pink and chrome and the black car. They get into it a little bit, and then okay, so the black car brakes. Why does he brake? And then comes back across the okay, all right, so that is entirely, and that's entirely on that black car. I mean, that's not even a question. So let's we'll go back a little bit further and see how it starts. We've got a Yosemite on the outside coming around the outside of both of these two. In fact, the Yosemite kind of touches there. We got the Yosemite touches the black clique. That then sends the black car into the pink car. The pink car then, you know, moves away, and the black car, I'm guessing, brakes to take avoiding action, but really he didn't need to do that, to be honest. But it was that final movement of that. I mean, all of this is just, you know, jostling for position. That's okay. Even braking at this point is okay. You know, you just don't want to cause any more incidents. You don't want to crash. So you have a little dab on the brakes, get out of the incident. If anything, it's a smart decision and you're not pushing it too much. But then it's that this movement that you've got to be aware that if you're braking, you're going to be slower than people who aren't braking. And there's so many people at the start of a race. You can't just then, you know, cut across the track and take a normal racing line when there's people coming much quicker than you because you've been braking, you know. So he obviously then pulls over to the left. The green tries to take avoiding action, which he almost does. But again, there's not enough space for any of this. Hits the black car. And then it just becomes a mess because there's not enough space for all of the cars that were trying to go in one of those, you know, those areas. It's a small area of cars, and yeah, what can you do? What can you do in that space? At that point, everyone's just trying to take avoiding action on everybody else. And it's just one of those things. But for me, yes, you could put this down to a racing incident and say that, okay, it was just a collection of people coming together. But when you actually look at it, for me, it's that black car's movement. He brakes and then pulls over to the left. Pulling over to the left, that's the racing line. That's fine. Braking, that's fine. But not both together. because by doing both together, it absolutely started this whole thing. He braked, that meant he was slower than everybody else, then he pulls across in front of everybody else. Avoiding action is trying to be taken by everybody, but there's not enough space, and then it just goes on from there. So, I mean, there is a lot to unpack in this one, and especially at the start of races, things are difficult. You could say, is there some blame on the Yosemite for, starting this whole thing and cutting off the black car in front? I don't think you can really put any kind of blame on the pink car. You could put blame on the black car. I don't know. I don't think you can really apportion any blame to the Coquette here as well, because you could say that he should have backed out. Maybe. But then the closing distance between them, let's actually play it at full speed again. It's difficult to really say that anybody should have done anything different apart from the black car who braked and also turned into the path of everybody else at the same time. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can realistically say that anybody there could have done anything different at the speed that it all happened, apart from that black car. I think the black car is the only one who did something that really he shouldn't have done. So for me, I would apportion blame to the black car. But maybe you think that the I don't know, brown? I don't know what colour you would call that. Desert tan? I don't know what it's called in GTA. I'll call it brown for now because that's close enough. I'll call it brown in the poll as well. Maybe you think it was the brown Yosemite's fault for sort of, forcing the black car over to the left, and that's what caused him to brake. But he didn't. I don't think he had to brake to take any avoiding action or anything. I think, for me, I would apportion blame to the black car in this one. But as always, the poll will be in the top right, and you can let me know your thoughts about who you thought was at fault for this one, and let me know in the comments as well. It's been an interesting one, this one, because the situations haven't been necessarily clear cut, and there aren't necessarily any rules when it comes to the rules of racing document that we always look at when it comes to dealing with out of control drivers. But for me personally, I would always go on the fact that it's always the person who's out of control and driving abnormally, as we saw from that little section of the rules of racing document. The person who's doing things that you're not expecting someone to do is ultimately the person who is at fault, if it isn't just defaulted to a racing incident. So it'll be interesting to see what you guys think on the polls. All of them for all the clips are obviously, they always pop up just there in the top right hand corner of the screen, and I'll put another one there right about now for whether you so you can decide whether you like this format as well with my face on here, or you prefer it just full screen only gameplay. I just thought I would do something a little bit different and mix it up a little bit and see if you guys enjoy. But hopefully you're still enjoying these Stewards Run videos. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for continually voting on the polls and commenting and stuff like that. Even though these aren't the videos that get the most views on my channel, it's not a random all video or anything like that. I enjoy doing them. I enjoy going through these clips and trying to determine who's at fault for various incidents. And it seems like you guys enjoy it too, so thank you for all the support. Now, you can find in the video description all the info and links that you may need to submit your own clips, and if you'd like to support me, you can do so on Patreon by becoming a YouTube member or simply subscribing and liking the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.